Okay, hi folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is going to be a lesson on the Duke Ellington ballad Prelude to a Kiss and my solo jazz guitar arrangement of the tune. If you haven't seen my arrangement yet, I will put a link up top and down below, so go ahead and check that out. This is actually a redo of this tune. I posted it about 3 years ago, and it got somewhat limited exposure. But perhaps some of you have seen my version of Stardust. It was the first solo jazz guitar video I ever posted, and it's one of my most viewed videos. Well, Prelude to a Kiss was the video I posted right after that, so it was my second solo jazz guitar video. And looking back on it, I can pick out a lot of problems I have with that old version. For one, the arrangement just wasn't airtight. It still had a little bit of refining that needed to be done. And another thing was that my feel was just kind of off through the whole song. And I don't get a whole lot of negative comments. Not that I'm against them, but that video did draw some criticism, saying it just wasn't rhythmically interesting, it was just kind of bland, and I do agree with that. My solo was okay. I actually have some trouble soloing over this one. I don't know why. It's just kind of it's always giving me a difficult time forming lines over these changes that aren't just a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, but at the time, I was still getting used to recording these videos and doing takes, and just I guess I was just kind of content with, what I produced, and, decided to go with it. It wasn't terrible by any means, but yeah, I'm just a lot pickier now than I was back then. Also, I didn't look good at all in the video. It just overall didn't look good. My shirt was kind of like half tucked in, and my room was a mess. So yeah, I just wasn't my greatest work. And not that I look great in any of my other videos, but I thought I could do a lot better. So I ended up deleting that video, and it had a little over 300 views and only 6 likes. So I don't think people were too crazy about it. But I wanted to give it another shot. I wanted to do a fresh, updated take. And it's also a great opportunity for me to walk through another one of my arrangements and show you how I treat this song, because it's such a great song for solo jazz guitar. It works very well, even if you just keep it simple, much like Misty. If you just simply voice the chords and play the melody, you come away with a lot of, really familiar guitar-friendly shapes. So a lot of 13s, a lot of 9s. So it's just a great one to add to your repertoire. And it's such a classy tune. It's Ellington, some interesting harmonies. Yeah, it's just a great ballad to throw in. And I remember the first time I ever heard it was actually as a solo jazz guitar piece. And it was part of a class I took at Berkeley. It was a recital preparation class where you would basically perform for everybody, and you get evaluated on it. And one of the performances we had to do was a solo piece. And there was a guy who was a far higher level solo player than many of us at the time. And he played Prelude to a Kiss, and he was just so smooth and classy. He had a nice blazer on, nice archtop guitar, and he just sat down and really blew us away. So it really inspired me to learn that song and get more into the style. And I was playing some solo arrangements at the time. I ended up playing Tenderly for the class, and an old version of Tenderly, which did go pretty well. So with that said, we can get into this arrangement, and there is no intro. I've never played an intro to this tune. I just jump right in on the head, and then I feel like I build it up pretty well over the course of the form, so I just don't think it needs anything extra. For this first A section, we're going to keep it nice and simple and just start right up here at the 10th fret with a D13 chord. And we have a nice chromatic descending melody. So I start off with my D13 and simply just move that top note down chromatically. So I have a D13, flat 13, here's a G9, G7 flat 9 to a C9, no third. And I'm doing no third for two reasons. One, I want to keep these 4-note voicings consistent. I don't want to get too expansive just yet. And second is because I'm about to throw the third in right now as I jump to that next bass note to lead into the F major 7 chord right there. So this whole thing just like that. And I actually stagger those last two shapes as opposed to just plopping them down like that. I think it keeps it a little bit lighter and you know, better for the first part of this song. Now the thing you want to concentrate on here is really try to sustain your voicings as you're moving that melody. Not too bad, you know. And really try to emphasize that, you know, descending melody. And I actually kind of physically need to lean, you know, to my left here to really feel it, you know, just like that. So, you know, the articulation and the dynamics are pretty key here because it's just this, you know, we're not doing anything fancy. We're not, you know, the chords are simple and the melody is simple too. So, you know, we're just really trying to think about these details. And I'll say I might play this a little faster than most people, or most versions I know, but I think it needs to have some momentum. Otherwise, it just turns into such a, just gets a little bit too sluggish. And that was a problem I had in my old version. I was just kind of didn't move enough. So, you know, I'm going to play it something like, you know, again, trying to make it all connected, trying to make it as smooth as possible. And actually, I played this fingerstyle on my take, which I was happy with. That's the way I usually play it. But in later takes, I started using my thumb, and I really like that kind of brushing the thumb like that. It just gave me a different sound, and I was able to play it, actually able to play it more consistently that way. But I was, by the time I was playing it like that, I was kind of burned out, you know, after playing this so many times. I didn't really get any good full takes with that, but if I could do it again, you know, I'd probably use my thumb here. I just kind of like the feel of that better. But for the rest of this video, I'll continue using fingerstyle, which is just fine as well. So moving on to the next phrase, we have pretty much the same thing, just in a different, starting in a different place. So we have a B13 chord, then a B7 flat 13 to E9, same type of melody, E7 flat 9 to A9, again, no third, and I'm not going to do the same bass motion here. I'm going to do something a little differently. From this A9, I'm going to walk up with a B minor 7 flat 5 to an C sharp minor 7 flat 5 to my D minor 9. So when I'm on this A9 chord with no third, it resolves to a D minor. And the B minor 7 flat 5 kind of functions. It can function as like a D minor 6 in third inversion. And the C sharp minor 7 flat 5 is really just an extension of that A9 chord. If I throw the third in there, and then I land on my D minor 9. So it's kind of just a little extra tonicization of that D minor chord. But again, the reason I don't throw the third in here in the first chord is because I am planning on hitting it in the future. So, you know, I want to, it makes it just a little bit more effective, at least in my opinion. And I talked about this in my previous video, but something I refer to as backtracking. Or I talked about this in my Misty video, but I don't want to, I want to have a lot of variety in my bass lines. I don't want to repeat the same note too many times. So if I know I'm going to hit this third, you know, in a couple of chords, then I'm probably going to leave it out, you know, in that first voicing. So it just gives you a nice little, you know, it really brings out that movement, and it's just something I like to take into consideration. So let's see, that whole thing from the beginning, these two phrases. Again, trying to connect these chords, make it smooth. Whoops. Again, really trying to emphasize that trickle down melody, kind of like some water, you know, trickling down a hill or something like that. And you know, we're not doing anything too fancy here in the beginning, so really trying to bring out the articulation and the dynamics, and that's what's really going to make this first A section sing. So so we're on a D minor 9. We're going to bar across the 3rd fret, get that melody note. So it's kind of like a D minor 11 with a 9 in there. It's going to go to G. I go to G13 here. I think it might say G7 on the lead sheet. I don't have it right in front of me. I'm doing this from memory. But kind of like I just switch, you know, from this D9 to a 13 chord because it's convenient. Walk up, G sharp diminished 7, play that melody, and then land on my A minor 7. And then I'm going to come all the way up here to my 15th fret on my B string. And I'm going to play that next part like that. So I grab it with my pinky, and I kind of do a slow slide. Well, that was a lot of S's. I do a slow slide down and land in my D13 voicing. I like that, you know, kind of falling effect. You know, you can do that. We're going to be doing that later on as well. So that from the D minor 9 down here, walk up, just like that. I think I played it like that on my recording. So moving forward, we're just going to come back down here. We're going to do a D minor 7. We're not doing a 9 right now because we got to take that melody into consideration. And here, C sharp diminished 7, back to a D minor 7 with no 5th. This is a nice voicing here. So we're quickly tonicizing that chord, the D minor chord. And this is a great little trick you can do with, if you have scale passages, you can always, you know, depending on what chord you're on, you can look for these opportunities to, you know, fill in the gaps with diminished chords. Let's see here. Some people refer to that as the diminished sixth scale. I've always thought of it as like a bebop scale. That's the term I use. I don't know if they're the same thing, but I don't know which is more common. But anyway, I think I hear Bill Evans do this a lot, so that's kind of where I got it from. And then the next chord is a G13 with a flat 9 on top. That melody is the flat 9. So down to down to the root. And then we're into a little turnaround here, so it's going to be an E minor 7 flat 5. And this is a really great voicing I like to do. I hit the low E string, and then I do a G minor triad with a 9 on top. So it's kind of like this one right here. In fact, you could play it right there. But I'm doing it up here. I like the timbre of these strings a little better, a little bit darker. So again, that's an E minor 7 flat 5. This is a popular chord. You know, it's a great jazz chord. It's got that tension 11 on there. And you can also just do a regular old, like if you have an E minor 7 flat 5. You know, I do that voicing a whole lot as well. But in this instance, I'm doing this a little bit larger voicing, which is nice. And then I just do a little fill here, just like a A7 sharp 9, just like this chord, Jimi Hendrix, you know, A7 7 sharp 9 chord. But I leave the A string open just to get a lower bass note. And then just like that. And then I just do an altered dominant fill. You know, A7, or, you know, A altered dominant, so a B flat melodic minor scale. Also, you know, it's kind of, we're close to this E flat 13 shape, which is, you know, resolving down to the D13, so you can think of it that way as well. You know, E flat 13, A7 sharp 9, they're the tritone relatives, so. Yeah, in fact, you could play this a couple ways, like the way I do it. You could do it, you know, with some smaller voicings, E minor 11, chromatic down, E flat 13 into my, whoops, D13. So you have some possibilities there, but again, I just like these two voicings. And anyway, moving on, then we are into the second A section, and here we're going to do two things. We are going to add in some tritone substitutions, and we're going to have a little bit more harmonic motion, and we're also going to stagger the melody and the chords. Now, at first I wasn't sure I wanted to do both of these, because both of these two elements, because I thought it might be a little too much to throw in all at once. You know, we have a very simple A section, a very simple first A section. Then, you know, I don't know how fancy I wanted to get on the second one, but really, I just like the way I play with this stagger feel, and the way it's going to sound is like this. So I just came off of something like that. Hit the melody first, then the chords. Just like that. And for whatever reason, that just helps me really connect that melody. I get it real nice and smooth. And I can do it, you know, with just the chords all you know, played as one too, which also sounds good. So you can really do it either way, but I'm going to continue doing the staggering right now because I just like it. So again, we start off with a D13 chord right here, but again, we're playing that melody first. So top note, then the bottom 3. And now we are going to do an A flat 9 with that B flat melody on top. So that's the 9. So D13. Let me just play these chords all at once for right now. A flat 9, G 9, D flat 9 to our D flat 9 no third to our C 9, also with no third, just like before. And then here, just a little extra thing here. It's kind of like a C7, a C13 flat 9 with a E in the bass. So first inversion, could also think of this as like an E diminished 7th chord with a with an extension up there back to my F major 7. So the A flat 9 is a tritone sub of the D7, the D13 chord, and it's going to resolve to the G9. The D flat 9 is a tritone sub of the G9. It's going to resolve to the C9. Just chromatic, you know, half-step resolution. And this is the same motion as before into the F major 7. So again, as I stagger it, it's going to sound like this. Okay? And then the same thing for the next section. I'm just going to start out with that B13, staggering it. F9, tritone sub, resolving down to E9. B flat 9, no third, half-step resolution to A9, no third. And here I do throw in the C sharp like that because I'm not going to do the walk up I did before. So now there is some nice bass motion in there. And then I land on this D right here, and I delay my resolution to the bass note, and I do this little walk down. So I like that because I'm like moving this bass note up, but then you're forced to wait a little bit until you finally land on it, you know, on the in the D flat in the D9 there in the next measure. So this phrase is like, sorry. And I'm trying to hold out this top melody while I play this. Just like that. So figure out the best way to do that if you want to. But yeah, so then we're on to the D minor 9, same as before, with an 11 on there, kind of like a G. I do a G13 here. G sharp diminished 7th, same melody as before. Here we're going to do something a little bit different. Before we had that nice kind of falling slide. Well, now we're going to do some we're going to do some pull-offs on the high E string, starting here at the 10th fret. A little chromatic, you know, pull-off down to the B there. I do a little hammer on there. A little trill into this chord, which is like a D9, which is like a D13 sharp 11. The 13 being the melody note on top, sharp 11 being right here, and then the lower part being like a D9 chord. So it's kind of like this chord, at least the top part of this chord with no root, and then that melody on top. And I actually have this chord in my Cool Chords video, which you can check out sometime. But this one's a little tough to grab, and there, yeah, I got to get that. That's the way I got to play it. So I'm barring the A string. I'm barring the A string with my middle finger, playing the. This is at the 9th fret. My pinky is at the 10th fret of the D string, and then my middle finger is barring the G string at the 9th fret. So it's kind of an awkward position. And then my ring finger is playing the 9th fret on the B string. My first finger is playing that that note on top. So good luck grabbing that one. If you don't want to do that, you can just do another just regular D13 chord. You know, do the same thing as before. But I like that. A little extra color in there. Then we're gonna do the same little diminished thing. You know, that ascending kind of bebop scale type thing. Same thing as before, G13 flat 9. This time we're just going to resolve to a C6 chord. Okay, so where were we here? interesting thing about this is I actually used to play the rhythm like just wrong, the rhythm of the melody wrong. I did get it right this time around on my recording, but I'm so used to hearing it the other way, it just sounds off to me. I used to hit that all at once. The melody actually precedes the chord change there, at least written on the page. I'm sure it might not be a huge detail, but it's something I tried to get right this time. So I want to go like that, have that chord come in afterwards. All right, so moving on to the B section. Little 2-5 here, we're modulating to the key of E, so I got my F sharp minor 7, B9, this voicing, and I am going to take this 9 and flat it like that, and that's eventually going to resolve to this E major 7 shape. So I have my F sharp minor 7, B9, B7 flat 9, walk down that flat 9, and I land with an E, kind of like this E major 7 shape, but we're gonna land, I'm gonna pluck just the root and the 5th. I'm gonna pluck the low E string, and then I got the 5th there because that flat 9 resolved to that. I'm gonna keep that, I'm gonna honor that motion, and then I fill it out. So it's, now there's a lot of ways to play this. Well, there's a couple ways to play this one. I just always tended to stretch up like this. So I have an E major 7. Here's an E major 7, sharp 11. I just stretch my pinky up 2 frets. Standard major 7 voicing, reach it up. I've always kind of liked that feel. You may not, but, and then I bar that next melody note right up there. Now you can play it like this too, you can do like an E, 6-9 chord. Kind of like that. That's a little more colorful, maybe a little bit too much for my taste, but I guess you could also go like this, This is just an E, kind of the same E major 7 shape. I'm just freeing up my first finger to get that melody on the high E string. So whichever way you choose to play it, just do what works best for your hand. But I always like to stretch here. And then continuing on, C sharp minor 7, just playing that melody on the B string there. C sharp, kind of like a minor 9, minor 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5 with that tension 11. And the melody is part of the chord, so you just pick it out within this voicing. And then I just kind of rest on this B7. It's actually just a minor 7 interval. We got a B here in the bass and then an A, because the melody coming up here, I don't want to interfere with it too much. So that's why I'm not playing anything on the G string right now, because I don't want to. I don't want to clash. So just kind of resting there, and then my next my net melody note is a C sharp. I'm going to walk down my bass note to an A, so I get a nice little friendly interval there, to a G sharp minor 7, and this is one with no 5th because I got to play that melody right here on the B string. G diminished 7th with a, this is a G diminished, I guess it'd be G diminished major 7th. So we have a G diminished 7 chord right there, but then an F sharp up top. That's a really cool sound. And then right into F sharp minor 7, B7, walk that bass note up again, back into that same melody. So all that again. Not interfering with the melody here. All right, so, and that's just a basic, you know, 1-6-2-5, you know, then it goes to 3-flat-3-2-5, 3-flat-3 diminished, you know, 2-5. Just, you know, again, I'm just playing comfortable voicings. There's nothing too fancy going on here, but again, I'm trying to make it nice and smooth and connected. And I'm also, oops, excuse me. If you weren't in tempo up to this point, which we had some momentum, but it was still sort of rubato, I am kind of in a tempo here, you know, and I'm trying to move this along. Again, one of my problems in the past is just playing this song too, you know, too sluggishly. So I'm trying to give it some legs and, you know, make it a little bit, play it with more of a purpose. So, this is interesting. I always tend to bend this, I always tend to make this note a little bit sharp. When I play it with my pinky right here, this is the E on the fifth fret of the B string. Then I go to F sharp, minor 7. I always tend to push my pinky down a little too hard there, and it just goes a little bit sharp. Move the pinky over to the A there. Continue that A right here up on the B7. Bass note, resolving up to that E major 7. You could play it like this. Let's see here. I could hit this E open, and I actually forget what I did in my recording, but I've done it both ways. But the problem with that is I kind of, you know, you can tell it's an open string, and you know, I prefer to have it fretted if possible. But anyway, a very, very small detail there. Anyway, the second part of the B section starts off the same way. I'm doing the same exact thing here. Now here, we're going to resolve to an E minor 7. So I'm walking my bass note, or I'm jumping my bass note up again to this D sharp here, playing the melody, I get a nice little minor 7th. So I have 2 minor 7ths here, that's kind of cool. Low B and the A, and then a D sharp and a C sharp into my E minor 7 right there. B flat 7, flat 5, the tritone sub of E, and it's going to resolve a half step down to A7 sus, to A7 flat 5. I mean, you just hit it for a second there. That's just to get that melody in there. And we have a really nice kind of brightening sequence of chords here. We have a D minor 11. I'm doing a D minor 11 with a 9 in there, just like we did before. And just walk chromatically up. E flat minor 11 with a 9, same shape. E minor 11 with a 9, and then we walk back down. Just a straight E flat 9 chord, 5 string voicing, and then I'm going to resolve that to a D13 with a 9, a 5 string voicing. So right here, you may notice that we do the very thing that I've mentioned I don't like to do, which is backtracking. That's just actually what's written on the page, and I've always just kind of liked the way this sounded. So this is perhaps an exception to my rule. And every now and then we're going to make exceptions, but you know, if anything, we're changing the chord quality on the way down, so it's not, you know, it's not that grave of a sin. But the bass motion does, you know, walk up and then walk back down in that same fashion. So, you know, just take note of that. Now, I actually just heard a Joe Pass play this. There's a video of him somewhere on YouTube that I just heard recently. And he does a really cool thing where I don't know exactly what he does, but he actually walks up from here. So I think he does, I don't know, he walks up something. It might be, I was using Fred here, if you remember Fred from last time, my Cool Chords video. He does something like that. So he's actually really getting a nice bass motion there with no backtracking. But I didn't think of that, and I'm stuck with my own way here, my old way of doing it. But again, it doesn't sound too bad, and it's kind of just a nice, it's a nice brightening sequence of chords, and it really builds up to climax in our final A section. And I just, I think I'll keep it that way. So now we're into these larger voicings, and we're going to do, so our first A section was we had kind of, 4-note voicings, no tritone substitutions. Our second A section, we had tritone substitutions along with some staggered playing. In this final A section, we're going to have larger, 5 and, we're going to have 5-note voicings and tritone subs, and just a different variety of colors here in the lower part of the guitar. And so again, this is kind of the climax of this arrangement. So again, D13. Again, we have a 9 shape here. We just put our pinky on top. We get that 13. A flat 13 with a 9 on top. Move that chromatically down. G 13 with a 9 on top. D flat 9, 5-note voicing. C9, full 5-note voicing. F sharp 7 sharp 9, which is going to resolve down to our F. And on this F chord, I'm doing a diminished major 7, and then resolving that back into just a regular old F major 7. So on this part, for this section, I used very kind of heavy thumb strokes, and that was just a habit I got into. I like the effect sometimes, but I say if I could go back and if I were to redo this again, I would probably still do this finger style and do staggered bass notes and melody. So instead of playing the melody first, I'd play the bass note first. I still get that nice, big, bold, these heavy chords, in the climax of the song. But I don't know. I just like it a little better that way. The thumb, it was kind of tough to keep the chords, the strokes consistent. So I had to be careful not to not to strike a chord too hard or too soft, and really, make sure the melody was still clear. So from now on, when I do it, I'll probably use finger style staggered playing. But for this video, I use the thumb. It's going to sound like this. You do have to stagger these last few voicings so you don't hit that unwanted A string. And again, it's still a nice effect, it's just kind of that thumb sound. Now you may ask, why didn't I do this diminished major 7th before? Because just like in Misty, whenever we have that strong either melody resolving on that major 7th, it's an opportunity for that diminished major 7th. Well, it can be worn out, whenever if somebody were to do that every single chorus, it kind of loses the effect, and it's not so much of a surprise the more you hear it. So I save it for this part of the song because, I think it's just a perfect, you've heard just the resolution to the major 7th already a couple times, so now we're going to add that little change and get that, extra bit of tension in there. So that's why I saved it until now. And then moving forward, we are going to, this is actually a B13 sus, or it's kind of like a B11 chord with a 13 on top, however you want to think of it. And this is the only time I do this voicing. I don't do it with the D chord in the previous phrase. For whatever reason, this just always has sounded cool to me, in this particular spot. So I have a B13 sus, and then the rest is going to be similar. Then we have a F13 with a 9 on top, resolving down a half step to E13 with a 9 on top. Now, you can play this chord down here. You know, this is just the 13 shape with using open strings, just like this one, an octave lower. But I choose to move this top part to the 5th string right there. And again, same voicing, but different location, and it's just setting me up for my next couple of chords to be a little bit smoother. From there, I'm going to go to a B flat 9, full 5-note voicing, same as your 5-note voicing on the 5th string, but this is just on the 6th string, or the root is on the 6th string. And then resolving that down a half step to my full A9 voicing. And then here I'm going to do a little altered chord. It's kind of like, if you think of this as an A7 sharp 9 with a flat 13, kind of like this chord up here, just an octave lower. And I'm not throwing in I'm not going to use the root, so I'm going to have that bass motion jumping up to that 3rd again, just like we did before, to resolve to my D minor chord. So it's going to sound like, just like that. And then here I just do a little D minor 6. I'm actually ending on a D minor 6 chord, and I just do a little arpeggio down. Kind of just to fill in, you know, add a little bit of flair in there. So the second phrase sounds like this. And then this is going to be the same as before. Same shapes. Now here we have, as I've called it in my previous videos, one of the coolest A minor chords you'll ever play, and a perfect opportunity for it. This is an A minor 11 with a 9 in there again, using that B, open B string as the 9. You get a nice, you know, clash in there, and then a kind of a, you know, a large interval on top with that melody, just down to a D13 chord. So let's see here. Just like that. And then same thing as before, same type of D minor motion. And now, and this is a G7, G13 flat 9. And now into a little walk up here. So this is kind of like a B flat 6/9, and then I'm just moving the bottom part of that chord up and keeping the melody on C. So I'm like walking it up like that. Here's a C6 chord, and then this chord. The way I'm thinking of this, you know, you may look at it and say, well, it's like a D flat major 7, you know, and then I'm going to move it up to a D7. You can think of it like that, actually. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, because the bass motion is just pushing you up. But it also can work as a A7 altered chord, which also resolves into, you know, my next chord of a D7. So it's kind of a double whammy there. In fact, you can even throw a little bass note real quick to, you know, to hint to your listener that that's what you're doing. So, so yeah, and then I'm into my solo, and you know, I try to pick up the tempo a measure or two before. So like maybe like right here, when I go into this. just like that, and I'm kind of setting myself up for some tempo. So as I said, Misty, you know, I need to go into a double time swing feel, or maybe this is more of like a 2 feel, but some sort of swing tempo as opposed to just free time soloing and or ballad soloing. It just you know, I get much more of a better. The result is always much better when I go into tempo, and as I said in the beginning, I've always had a little bit of trouble soloing over this song. I don't know exactly why. The chords are interesting, but for whatever reason, I've kind of had the opposite problem that I have with Misty. In Misty, I play too many lines and not enough, you know, interesting ideas. And in this one, I actually have trouble forming lines. Just kind of especially in the first, you know, in the A section, the first phrase, getting into the second phrase, you know, from the, you know, like that's okay. But then, you know, trying to find an interesting way to land on that B chord that's always been a little tricky for me. But I am content with my solo this time. I think it's better than my original version, so I hope you enjoy it. And then yeah, getting out of my solo, I just play the same thing as my third A section before, just these big 5-note voicings with a thumb. Same thing. Nothing's changed. Even the same little fill here. Same cool A minor chord, A minor 11. I think I throw in some harmonics here. Not really necessary, I just do it every now and then, but same thing here. Now actually, I do tag on a little ending here, a little bit of a tag. Just a little turnaround, E minor 7. This is actually like an E minor 11 chord, similar to the one I did before, the E minor 7 flat 5 with that 11 on there. Well, I'm just keeping the shape down here this time. Instead of doing a minor 7 flat 5, I'm just doing an 11, just to change it up a little bit. Just filling in a little bit. A13 flat 9 adds a little bit of tension. I think I do a little E flat 9 there, tritone sub resolving down to D minor. And then I forget to do the diminished chord this last time, but you can if you want to, but I did forget on the video. And now to end the song, I just do a little kind of walk down instead of, when I did this before, I walked up into my solo. Now to end the song, I'm going to walk down. So I start off on the same chord, a B flat 6/9. This is an interesting one. I'm not sure what you want to call this, but I'm using my open A string and then an F sharp here, open G string, and then I'm keeping my first finger on that C. I kind of think of this as almost like a D7 chord, as a, you know, second inversion. The reason being, my next chord is going to be a D flat major 7, so it's almost like, you know, chromatically moving down, and then a D flat major 7 chord over an A flat. So so my bass motion, you know, stays consistent of moving down. And then the final chord is this. It's like a C major 13 with the root on top. And again, this was in my Cool Chords video. This is like the Kurt Rosenwinkel chord that I saw him do at a clinic one time. It's a cool way to end songs. Great for if you need to play a root, you know, on top in this lower register. It sounds really good, kind of, you know. So again, it's G in the bass, and then you got to figure out a way to play those 3 notes at the 2nd fret, and then put your C on the first fret of the B string. And that's how I end the song. So that's going to do it for this walkthrough. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful, and hope you enjoyed my arrangement. And I really do, hope you consider learning Prelude to a Kiss, whether it's my arrangement or your own or somebody else's. It's just a great one to have in your repertoire. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, please feel free to drop a comment below or shoot me an email through my website, and I will do my best to provide you with answers. So thanks once again for watching. Hit that like button, consider becoming a subscriber, and I've got more lessons on the way. I'm thinking about doing another one of these where I take a song that's not so guitar friendly and try to work through it and come up with an arrangement that's, that's going to work on guitar. So stay tuned for that, and till next time, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.